much like Icarus, who fashioned wings of wax and feathers to touch the sun, only to be undone by his own ambition. Ancient China had its own story of a being who dared to challenge the heavens. But where Icarus fell into the sea, this giant ran. He ran until the earth cracked beneath his feet. He ran until the rivers ran dry. He ran until there was nothing left to give. This is the legend of Kuafu, the giant who chased the sun. In the age before memory, the sun ruled the sky without mercy. It rose each morning like a tyrant and burned without restraint until it set. Harvests failed. Rivers shrank to muddy trickles. Animals abandoned the open plains and retreated into shadows. The world was not dying, but it was suffering. And somewhere in the vast wilderness of ancient China, a giant watched the sky and felt something stir in his chest that no giant had ever felt before. Not fear of the sun, but fury at it. Among the clans of giants who walked the ancient world, there lived Kuafu, a descendant of Hutu, the great god of the earth itself. Kuafu was enormous, even by the standards of giants. His legs could swallow 100 li in a single stride. When he walked, rivers trembled. When he drank, lakes shrank. But for all his power, Kuafu's people suffered like everyone else. The elders grew gaunt. The children cried from thirst. The summer sun burned without mercy, and Kuafu, who could shake the ground with a footstep, could do nothing to stop it. And so Kuafu made a decision that would echo through thousands of years of Chinese memory. He would chase the sun, not simply to race it, but to catch it, to hold it in his hands, to bend it to the will of his people so that they would never suffer its cruelty again. His fellow giants warned him. The elders shook their heads. No creature born of earth could outrun the sun. No mortal strength could seize the sky. But Kuafu had made up his mind. At the moment the sun touched the western horizon, he took his great wooden staff, and he began to run. The chase was like nothing the world had ever seen. Each of Kuafu's strides swallowed mountains and valleys whole. The ground shook. Trees bent in the wind he created. Birds exploded from the skies. For a time, he was gaining. The sun, that great burning wheel, seemed to grow larger on the horizon. Kuafu roared with triumph and pushed harder, his feet thundering across the ancient plains. He was the fastest thing on earth. He was unstoppable. He was, for a brief, magnificent moment, winning. He crossed the great mountain ranges of the east as though they were stepping stones, peaks that took ordinary men weeks to climb. Kuafu cleared in a single bound. His staff cracked against the ridgelines as he pushed himself faster, higher. Below him, the world spread out like a painting. Rivers, forests, valleys, all of it shimmering in the terrible heat. Above him the sun continued its arc westward, indifferent and blazing. Kuafu did not slow. He did not look back. He only ran, but the sun does not tire. And the further Kuafu ran, the more his body demanded what no land could give him fast enough. His thirst became unbearable, a burning in his throat that matched the fire above. He reached the Yellow River, one of the greatest rivers in the known world, and dropped to his knees. He cupped his hands and drank, and drank, and drank. In a single, desperate breath, the Yellow River was gone. Its ancient bed lay exposed to the merciless sky, fish gasping on cracked mud. Still, it was not enough. He found the Wei River next, and emptied it just the same. Where once boats had sailed and fishermen had cast their nets for generations, there was now only cracked, dry earth and the echo of water that no longer existed. Kuafu stood at the empty riverbed, and felt the fire in his throat burn hotter than before. Ahead, far to the north, lay the great marshlands, a vast body of water that he believed, he prayed, would finally be enough. He gripped his staff, he turned north, and he ran. But the marshlands were far, and the sun was faster. Kuafu's stride began to shorten. His great legs, which had crossed mountain ranges in a single leap, now trembled with each step. The fire in his throat had spread to his chest, his limbs, his eyes. The horizon ahead shimmered. Was that water or heat? He could no longer tell. The sun continued its slow, indifferent descent toward the west. It did not hurry. It did not need to. It had always been this way. It would always be this way. And Kuafu, magnificent, furious, dying Kuafu, finally understood. Somewhere between the empty riverbeds and the distant marsh, Kuafu fell. Not violently, not with a crash or a roar. He simply slowed and stopped and lay down on the earth that had given him life. The sun, that burning, indifferent eye, sank below the horizon as it always had, as it always would. And Kuafu, who had come closer to catching it than any creature ever had, lay still. He had not won. He had not reached the marshes. He had not seized the sky. But in the silence that followed, something began to happen in the ground beneath his hands. The great wooden staff that Kuafu had carried, the rod he had used to steady himself across mountains and riverbeds, took root where it lay. And from it grew something no one had planned and no one could have predicted. A forest. A vast, impossibly lush forest of peach trees, stretching for hundreds of li in every direction. The same earth that had watched Kuafu die now burst into pink and white blossoms, fruit heavy on every branch, shade deep and cool beneath every canopy. Where there had been cracked, burning ground, there was now life. The Chinese have told this story for over 3,000 years, and what is remarkable is how they choose to tell it. Kuafu is not a cautionary tale about knowing your limits. He is not a fool punished for hubris. In the Chinese tradition, Kuafu is a hero, celebrated for his audacity, his sacrifice, and his love for his people. He could not catch the sun, but the forest he left behind sheltered travelers for generations. The shade he could never enjoy became the shade of countless others. He knew he might fail. He ran anyway. And in that running, in that magnificent, impossible sprint across the ancient world, he left behind something that outlasted him by millennia. Not victory, something better. A gift he never got to give in person. And sometimes, that is enough.